Hey YouTube, it's Dimitri, aka Fancy Quant, and today we're going to talk about giving a speech and how to do it well. So the first tip about giving a speech or presentation is doing something that you are passionate about. So for me, I love risk management, I love quantitative finance, I love beekeeping, I love motocross, I have all these hobbies and things I like to talk about. And so for giving a speech, if you do something that you're very passionate about, it's easy to give the speech because people will see that you're excited and you're passionate and you want to be there and that you want to be presenting. It also helps because if you get off track on your speech, if you know the topic well enough, you can be like, oh, I'm a little off track, and then kind of bounce back on to what you're supposed to be talking about. And so giving speeches on stuff that you're passionate about and things that you're very knowledgeable about will make your speech or presentation much easier. And yes, I know sometimes you're just assigned a presentation for like school or something, but if you get the opportunity to choose the topic, try to pick something that you're passionate about and that you know a lot about. So the second tip for giving a great speech is doing research. So yes, the first tip is doing a speech or presentation on something that you are actually knowledgeable about. But the second tip is doing research. And even if you're an expert on something, it helps to research and look at other points and topics and make sure that everything in your speech is solid, and that even if you know a lot about this, there might be like a few questions you're going to get around the topic that you might not be as big of an expert on. So it helps to do research on the topic itself, and then also do research on the audience. So if you're giving a presentation, and for example, I do a lot of presentations at universities, I try to give these that are focused around students because my audience is a student. So which advice can I give them about, risk management, risk projects, career development that will focus on a student, which would be a much different presentation than if I were to give a similar presentation, say to a bank. So if you're presenting to a bank on career development and ways to encourage employees to have more interaction, that's going to be different than focusing on students, where students are trying to actually find a job. So knowing your audience and knowing your topic, it definitely helps to do research in advance, even if you think you know a lot about them. The third tip is taking notes, not writing a script. So what do I mean by this? I mean, when you give a presentation, I like to list out the big main points. Like, okay, there's 4 main topics, and if I'm creating a PowerPoint to go with this, I'll have like 4 slides or 5 slides, for example. And then on each slide, I'll have bullets on what I want to cover. And I even put little like parentheses with notes at the end to help me jog my memory on like, oh, there was that one thing I wanted to talk about. But being able to write bullets and then just practice giving this speech in advance will help you come off as like fluid and exciting, because when you write like a speech out, then you're like mechanical. And I absolutely hate this. I've even been to like huge corporate events like chief HR officer or, big name people at big events, and they're like reading off like this script and they're like looking down and reading, and like it's all very mechanical, and it's horrible because as the person in the audience, you don't feel like they're there talking to you and with you and having a conversation. You feel like they're talking at you. Like you're just an object and they're just like regurgitating this nonsensical script, and it's really boring. So to practice doing your speech, it will never be the same speech if you give it multiple times. And that's okay. But I think if you get used to just giving a speech off of a few like bullets and notes, you'll actually get more comfortable with just talking in front of people instead of just awkwardly standing stiffly and reading, these notes off to everybody in the audience. So that's the third point that I'd give you, is try to do bullets and do not write a script. And the fourth and last point is add personal examples or personal stories. So I gave a few presentations when I started and they were very rigid, and it's probably about a month ago I gave another speech, but I try to incorporate more or less more of my personal examples. And so, for example, I talked about in this speech what to do when you're in grad school, how to prepare for the job market, and I talk about internships. But I could just tell you the students like, oh, you need to apply early, right? That's kind of boring. But the thing is if you give an example, so for example, I talked about how I failed. Like, I was a huge failure. And for example, I didn't start applying early because I didn't know. And even when people told you to apply early, I didn't do it. Or another example I gave was the story about how you should practice interviewing with people in person. And I talked about how basically I didn't do that and I failed. And so I ended up having to interview with all these actual companies and basically wasting valuable interviews that I earned, but I wasted them because I didn't practice. And so by giving a personal example, and they don't have to be failures, but for me, showing like the failures and how I learned from them and applying them to people, I feel like makes a real connection because you understand I don't think I'm perfect, and I'm trying to show you how to do a better job at career development, getting the first job, self-learning, but you're learning all these basically from my mistakes, and I'm definitely human, and having that human fact and having like a story or a personal kind of piece in your presentation makes you connect with the audience better, and that's typically where you get like the smiles, the nods, kind of like the chuckles and the laughs in the presentation, which are indications that you're doing a great job, is when you have those personal notes. So those are the 4 topics I have for giving a great presentation and learning to public speak better. I personally hated it when I first started. When I first did YouTube, again, if you go back and look at all my old videos, like my job series videos, like how to write a resume, how to interview, I'm very rigid and I'm like talking very monotone and I don't really feel comfortable. And that's because I'm not comfortable. Like I'm not used to presenting on a video camera. And even today, like video camera, like doing kind of like selfie video downtown or like in public, for me is very awkward. So I don't usually do it, even though I'd love to have more clips of kind of like my daily life and tie those into videos. But I'm still working on that kind of portion of getting comfortable public speaking in the masses. So anyways, I hope you guys find this video helpful. If you do, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe as it really helps my channel grow. It really delivers the content to other people like you on YouTube who haven't found me yet. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching, and as always, until next time. Thanks for watching my video. If you find it helpful, please like, share, and subscribe.